Mark's Reviews and Tutorials video. Today we're going to be servicing a jet selector. That's this guy here. Spars have Venturis on them, something like this, and what that does, that introduces air. It's actually got air written on it, this one. Little guys like this, and by opening and closing them, you're allowing air to come into the jets, which gives you a greater massage with the bubbles. This guy here though is a jet selector. What it actually does, turn in one direction, it'll be running a certain set of jets, turn it round, and the same pump will be running another set of jets. This one's gotten really stiff and tight, so we're going to give him a service and get him free and moving again. Now this particular style here, this big lock nut on the top actually comes off, and the way to get that off is just, I've got a pair of barrel union pliers here, but you're going to need like an oil filter wrench or something big enough to get onto that. What we're going to do, so that we don't damage it, I'm just going to drape a towel over the top and then put the pliers on and then grab hold of it and give it a turn. There we go, that started. Yep, here we go. And then it just screws up on a thread. As a matter of fact, this top bit, yep, that'll come off. That just lifts off. That's not supposed to be attached. So this comes off, and then be very careful not to lose. There's two O-rings you can see in there under that inside edge. The spares are still available for all of these, and there's an O-ring around the top which seals it. And then this part here lifts out, and you can see when you're turning it, it diverts the water. The water comes up from the bottom, it diverts it either that way, or you turn it around, it diverts the water that way. That's how it turns the water from one jet to another. Now you can see here clear scratch marks down the side. These get little stones and pebbles and things in them, and they can get jammed up. So sometimes just opening it is all it takes. But when I look in here, there's actually some burn marks down there. So I'm actually going to get some sandpaper down there and just give that a bit of a clean up. Now, obviously there's no rubber or O-rings on it, so it's not diverting 100% of the water, but it's certainly diverting most of the water to the other jet. So what we need to do is just clean up those. There's probably those rough areas causing the problem. That's something could be from the original installation, that actually looks like it's been heated. So anyway, we'll just give a bit of a light sand there. Only do a little sand and then see how it goes rather than doing a great big sand, because the more that you knock off, the more you're opening up the tolerance and the more water is going to leak past this diverter valve. Going to give it a little bit of a light sand on the outside, wherever you feel high spots. But looking down there, let's have a feel of that. Yeah, that's really quite rough down there. So definitely a bit of sandpaper. We'll get that off and see if we can't get that nice and smooth. Got a piece of emery paper here, and to be quite honest, it's one I've had for a very long period of time. Emery paper's got like a cloth backing, and it's a much more expensive, much stronger sandpaper that can tend to last for a long, long time. So you don't want too big a grit, because obviously that'll just create scratches. We just want to run it smooth. So we'll give that a sand and then see if this loosens up. Okay, so there we go. I've given that a sand. Now, if you had found stones and grit in there, this would just be a matter of hosing out these stones and grit and getting rid of that. But there's obviously a bit of damage, a bit of warping and out of shape. So I've given that a sand down on both sides just to clean it up. And now we're just going to experiment, put it in and experiment with it. I've also, it's very hard to get right to that bottom edge and sand down there. So I've given it a bit of a sand here just to reduce the tolerance, make that just a little bit smaller so there's a bit more room. So now we'll put that back in and put the handle on and just see how that's going. Yep, that's better than it was, but it's not great. Well, it's a lot better than it was actually. And I haven't put any lube on there yet, but I'm going to give that a little bit more of a sand. We're definitely on the right track, because that can now be moved. But just a little bit more of a sand, and then we'll put him back together, run some water through it, and see how it goes. And then to finish off, we'll just give everything a bit of a lube. That is these here, because it is a moving part. Mind you, it's going to have 2.5 or 3 horsepower worth of water thumping through it, so the lube's not going to stay there forever, but it's really good just to get it on into the plastic to start with, and also on all of your O-rings, and particularly on the shaft here. That's where those double O-rings are, up on this part, so give that a good lube so there's no gripping and carrying on from the O-rings. And around the O-ring here, then we'll put them all back together and give them. So we've lubricated all the O-rings, and this is ready to put back together. Now, when you're pressing this back in, you'll see there's a little slot on the bottom of it, and down the bottom there's a little tab, which is a stop, which stops it from going, so it only goes one way. So just put it in one way, and then if you turn it, you'll feel it come up onto that stop. Then you'll be able to put the handle on properly. So then, as long as that O-ring's properly seated and you've lubed it, that's the inside of that. Now, all of these parts are still available, so have a look. I'll put a link in the description. Probably Amazon US is where I'll put it, as long as I can find it there. If not, have a look. Nillumbik Pool and Spa Service. Just look me up on Google and you can contact me, and I can get hold of all these parts and send them anywhere in the world as well. So screw that down. Now, how tight? These things are plastic, so give it a really good reef around, hand tight. Then I'd put the spanner back on and just give it, you know, another centimetre or something like that, just a small amount to get it nice and tight. But here, we'll give this a test. Oh yeah, look at that. That's nice. Problem solved. That jet selector is now working again. There's just a bit of interference problems going on, and just give it a bit of a sand up, and that's now working beautifully. There you go. As I said, links in the description for any parts and any other spa parts. If you're in Australia, or for these are really hard to get. And look, even in Australia, it's hard to get spa parts. So just email me at Nillumbik Pool and Spa Service. As I said, just look it up on the internet, and you can contact me. I'll be able to get those. On this spa, the jet selector puts all the water back through that one big jet to give you a nice big massage. Give it a turn and watch the spa as I do it. That turns on all of the other side jets right the way around the spa. So this was all jammed up and couldn't be moved, and now we're back. Jet selector's working beautifully.